Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Frankie Roche. This is the Frank Roche Show. Hot topics. It's Monday, September 9th. Just getting ready for the debate tomorrow night. Tuesday, the 10th, Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. Debate number one. Will there be a debate number two? It depends on how well Kamala does. I'll share some thoughts about the debate tomorrow and a little look into the economy, what's ahead for the week. So since Kamala was awarded the nomination back in July, so far the campaign has stonewalled the media in an unprecedented fashion. Not even Joe Biden's basement campaign in 2020 blocked out the media like what we are seeing from the Harris-Walz campaign. She's only done one interview, pre-taped with friendly CNN with her running mate beside her, and that was not a particularly good interview. Not a lot of details, didn't go as well as expected, I'm sure. Strangely, political candidates are usually excited to share their opinions on the issues of the day and the policies they would like to see enacted or changed. They want to share their vision, their values. Kamala did this in 2019. She had a campaign website. She had a list of issues. She was out there talking about the issues that were important to her. It didn't go well. It was a large field of candidates, and she left the campaign trail December 3rd, 2019, without ever getting into the primary votes. And moreover, candidates love media, free media in particular. Earned media is great. News interviews are great. Hey, we'd like to do an interview with you on ABC News. Great, let's do it. Let's set it up. She's had a lot of earned media, right? The media has been talking about her. Her surrogates have been talking about her. But she is not. Walz is not. They've been deliberately kept away from unscripted interviews or policy discussion. Now, thankfully, just today, the 9th of September, and I check this every day. I checked it last night. Just today, the Harris-Walz campaign website did, in fact, post policy positions on a variety of issues, essentially the Democrat platform. So really good news there. I think that was good for her and Tim. It's important to share your policy positions. It took too long, of course, but it's done. They're up on the website. You can review them yourselves. And we've known where she stands on some things, right? She's pro-choice without time restrictions, price controls to control inflation, democracy, which is code word for reminding Americans about the January 6, 2021 riots and protests at the Capitol. We know she's for open borders and amnesty for illegal immigrants. Higher taxes with the unprecedented plan to tax unrealized gains. That's stunning. That's going to be a economy killer. She wants to rebuild the middle class. Again, recognition of MAGA. I mean, that's what MAGA is a recognition that the middle class has been wiped out. Her surrogates are referring to her as a candidate of change. But let's not forget, she is still vice president, and has been vice president. She has embraced Bidenomics. This is not the Kamala Harris from the 2019 presidential run or her time in the Senate, where she was judged the most progressive senator. This isn't even the Kamala Harris of the Biden administration. She has moved right on many issues, including immigration. She has ads showing a wall to keep people out. Don't forget, though, during the Biden-Harris administration, some 9.4 illegal immigrants have been allowed into the country. And they have to own the rise in crime, people trafficking, drug trafficking, the rise in fentanyl overdoses. The Biden-Harris team has to own that. She's been out and about giving the same speech for some weeks now. She's been holding rallies. She's been talking to the people. She's just been avoiding the media. And it's working for her in the Democrat Party. In the polls, Trump was crushing Biden in the days after June 27th debate, and more so after the assassination attempt on the 13th of July. Since she's been in the race, though, the polls have tightened up. Some polls she's ahead. It's very close, within the margin of error. So, this was ultimately a good decision for Democrats in terms of maintaining control in Washington. However, polls over this past weekend show any bump from the honeymoon of being crowned the Dem candidate for president has disappeared. Now, in the CNN debate, Kamala repeated her values haven't changed. Instead of defending or advocating for a particular policy, she's going to have to say more than that on policy in her vision for the 4-year term, certainly tomorrow night in the debate, and certainly between now and the election day. Well, tomorrow, the 9 p.m. debate in Philadelphia will have a big impact on the polls. If she does well, there'll be another debate. I suspect if she doesn't do so well, there probably won't be another debate. But this could be the determining factor here. It certainly was for President Biden on June 27th. Now, if you look at Kamala Harris's website, Tim Walz's website for presidency. Prior to this morning, when the issues page was put up, the only thing you could really find about what she had in mind was Meet Kamala Harris. The link says Meet Kamala Harris. She has this on her website. The Biden-Harris administration has achieved a historic record of accomplishment, including bringing our economy back from the brink of disaster to create nearly 60 million new jobs, investing over $1 trillion in infrastructure projects like repairing roads and bridges, removing every lead pipe in America, and improving public transport, and expanding access to high-speed internet, strengthening the Affordable Care Act, and lowering health insurance premiums to save millions of Americans an average of $800 per year. Expanding health care for veterans exposed to toxins, think Joe Biden's son, enacting the first meaningful gun safety reform in decades and bringing violent crime down to a 50-year low. That's just not true. Passing the largest ever investment in tackling the climate crisis and appointing the first Black woman to the United States Supreme Court. She's taking credit for Biden's actions. Even though she's embraced the Biden-Harris administration and their policies, she really wasn't a big player in all this. She was kind of kept at arm's length for most of the administration before Joe dropped out. Like Joe's approval rating, she had the lowest approval rating of any vice president in modern American politics. Now, this whole thing about bringing the economy back from the brink of disaster, creating 16 million new jobs, the accomplishments, they've been spinning this economic lie for some time now. And the data reveals the truth about the economy they took over. Whether we look at the consumer price index, they want to claim that inflation was 9% when they took office. You can see here from the chart, during the Trump years, inflation was well under control. Inflation took off during the Biden years, after January 2020. You can see it very clearly in the data. Again, bringing the economy back from the brink, you can see that by the time they took office and were underway in March of 2021, the unemployment rate was already back down to 6.2%. It has fallen further, of course, during that time, but it was not in any way near danger level or a recession level. You can see it when you look at real gross domestic product adjusted for inflation. You can see, apart from the COVID drop and increase, the Trump team had good growth, and the Biden team is growth. You can see the trend line in the chart. You can see the 2 periods of recession. When they took over, the economy was not at the brink of disaster. You can see GDP was growing in January, February, March of 2021. We were not in recession. When you look at manufacturing jobs since September 8, 2024, again, they're claiming they created all these manufacturing jobs, but you can see clearly on the data chart here that they have not created 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. It's only about 200,000. You can see here in the total employment for the U.S. economy. Again, they're talking about creating 16 million new jobs. That's not true. Those jobs simply returned after the COVID lockdowns. And you can see from the chart, they've only created about 5 million new jobs over this period of time. And the vast majority of those jobs have been part-time jobs. And most of those jobs have been taken by foreign nationals. And that data is very clear at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then lastly, you can look at the federal deficit. Obviously, there was a big jump in the federal deficit for COVID in 2020. That's on Trump's watch, but again, can't really place that on him. But what the Biden-Harris team did was they injected huge amounts of money into the economy. That's why we had the huge spike in inflation. And you can see this in the data as well. So the idea that they were bringing an economy back from the brink of disaster just simply isn't true. Putting that to rest, the data, you can see the data for yourself. Anyway, big night tomorrow, a stark difference in policies and leadership in these two candidates. Trump has to avoid personal attacks, stumbling and mumbling, and exaggerating data. He can't talk about the 2020 election, except about Kamala Harris's candidacy ending early for the Democrat primary. He can't interrupt. He can't be generally a dick. ABC is hosting, so expect softer questions for Kamala, less follow-ups for Kamala than compared to Trump. Trump cannot attack the moderators. Instead, he should pose questions to Kamala via the moderators he wants to ask that they might not ask. And Kamala has to avoid the word salads. Be good with the details. She can't lean on her values as a substitute for policy positions. She'll have to find a way to embrace the Biden-Harris years, and it's not a good economic record, unfortunately, and still claim she is a candidate for change. Now, she's going to cite the accomplishments of Biden and she's going to attach herself to those. And those are simply the American Recovery Act, the CHIPS Act, the Infrastructure Bill, and the Inflation Reduction Act, which was not an Inflation Reduction Act. That was a Green New Deal. Even President Biden last week admitted in an interview, in a speech, that they should have not named it the Inflation Reduction Act. They should have named it what it was, and that was a Green New Deal. Now, with her freshly uploaded positions on her website, she's going to have to manage the perception of her proposing policy changes and squaring that with the fact that she is now and has been the United States vice president. And again, has embraced Bidenomics. So if things have been so great for 3.5 years, almost 4 years under Biden-Harris, what are all these changes for? Why aren't these proposals being managed over the past 3 years? What took so long? Trump is going to hit her on immigration. She'll have to own it and share concrete examples of what she has done to fix it or make it better. Biden-Harris have been claiming for some weeks now, since President Biden took some executive action to secure the border a little more, that illegal immigration is down the past few months. Again, the data doesn't support that conclusion. This is Trump's 8th debate. This is Kamala's first debate. Let's hope for a good policy-based debate. Early voting starts in a handful of states very soon. Neither candidate have much time to make their case. Of course, we know Trump. We know who's for Trump and who's against Trump, but there are obviously some independents who could be swayed one way or the other. We don't know Kamala as well, and so that'll be important for her to accomplish here in this debate on Tuesday night. All right, enough of that stuff. What is it, break a leg? Do we say break a leg? All right, jobs. Last week we had some jobs data. We had the ADP employment report came at 99,000 new jobs created for the month of September, below expectations, below the prior month, moving towards recession. Been talking about this for some time now. The labor market is not doing great. On Thursday, though, we had an outlier. We had initial unemployment claims for the week ending the 31st of August that showed only 227,000 Americans lost their job, a low number. Something's wrong with the initial claims data, or the labor market is still hot. And the Fed's going to have to manage that decision. And then on Friday, we had the mother of all data points, the employment situation report, non-farm payrolls, average hourly earnings, average weekly hours, the U3 unemployment rate, the narrow measure, and the U6 unemployment rate, the broad measure. Also another weak report coming from the BLS.gov. 124,000 jobs created, expecting more than that, lower than the prior month. Unemployment rate ticked up a little bit. The U6 rate at 7.9%. Average hourly earnings high at 0.4%. The Fed won't like that. Average weekly hours basically unchanged at 34.3 hours a week. So a weak report with some problems for the Fed. That is to say, the average hourly earnings and the initial claims data from Thursday. Remember, the Fed meets this month, the 17th and the 18th. Right now, speculation is they drop the federal funds rate 25 basis points, drop interest on reserves 25 basis points. Some market players are calling for 50. I think the Fed should stay on hold. I think they're making a mistake, but I have to call it the way I see it, far from what I wish they would do. And it looks like they're going to cut 25 coming on the 18th, bring the federal funds rate down to 5.25%. This is the week after the employment situation report. Not a very busy week for economic data. No data today. Now you can see on this calendar that I'm showing, there's lots of data that comes out. When I say there's no data today, what I really mean is there's no obvious market moving data today. And that's the data we want to focus on. There's just so much data that comes out. We can't track it all and still be efficient with our commentary. And so there's about 32 to 39 data points that are meaningful each month. And that's the ones I comment about here on the Frank Roche podcast, the Frank Roche Show. Hot topics. So no data on Monday, no data tomorrow, Tuesday. And we have the debate tomorrow night. Wednesday, though, as always, we have mortgage applications for the week ending, what was it? The 7th of September. Housing's been a little bit weak, although still near all-time highs. Interest rates are at 6.43% for the 30-year mortgage. So make a little positive number here on some refinancing. But importantly, on Wednesday, we get the consumer price index for the month of August. This will be meaningful for the Fed. A hot number may change the outlook for the Fed interest rate decision on the 18th. A cool number affirms that decision. I don't think any data this week that allows them to go 50 basis points. on the 18th. And we'll look at the core CPI, we exclude food and energy. That's it for meaningful data on Wednesday. On Thursday, more inflation data from the producer side, the producer price index. This number is cooled quite a bit. This number is approaching the Fed's target, even though this is not the actual number they use as their target. But the producer price index is back near the low twos in terms of month-over-month gains and year-over-year gains. And then also on Thursday afternoon, we get the federal budget balance for the month of August, looking for another whopper, minus 338 billion. Good Lord, are you kidding me? And just a quick side note here. It's September 9th. Fiscal year 2024 ends at the end of this month. The new budget, as is required by the U.S. Constitution, has to be on the president's desk October 1st for the fiscal year 2025. Guess what? The Republican-led House of Representatives, where the process begins, is not done their work. They took their August vacations, mind you, but Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, remember the Republicans have a narrow majority in the House, is already trying to get a continuing resolution passed that'll take us to March of 2025 because they can't do their job and get the budget in place on time. This has been 15 years of this inefficiency, incompetence by the members of Congress that earn $200,000 a year, plus benefits, plus all the other side things, plus insider trading. Just embarrassing. Republicans and Democrats do the same crap. Get it together, go to work. I want a time clock put into the U.S. Congress. I want to check attendance. If we actually checked attendance about how much these people actually work, we would be shocked. Now, there are moments when they do lots of work. They're on the Hill, they're debating, they're writing laws. There are times like that, but generally speaking, I want to see a timesheet. Remember, they don't have to come to Washington, D.C. till Monday afternoon. They get to leave Thursday night. So they're never here Fridays or Monday mornings. It's a real scam. Anyway, they're going to fail in their budget responsibilities again. Just horrible. Anyway, back to what I was saying about jobs data and the economy. And that's pretty much it. We have some consumer expectations numbers on Friday. Michigan consumer sentiment can be a market mover. How we're feeling about the world around us comes from the University of Michigan. And that's about it for the week. Markets, not surprisingly, stock market's still in their all-time high. Can't take this market down. It's a bubble for sure. Bad news for the economy is good news for stocks. It's still a buy the dip market. I would be selling rallies. I'm a seller of rallies. I've been wrong for about a year now, so I'm taking the hit, but I'm going to be right. I was almost right a couple weeks ago, but the Fed saved things. I guess the Bank of Japan saved things. Anyway, stocks still bid, even as the economy slows, recession rides up, geopolitical turmoil across the planet. We have an end of inversion in the yield curve from the 2-year to the 10-year. How about that? The 2-10 spread. Finally back to a positive number. It's been a couple of years now. The yield on the U.S. 10-year, 3.7%. The yield on the U.S. 2-year, 3.6%. And so we have almost a flat yield curve, 2 through 10s, but it's definitely positive slope now. 1s through 2s is still an inverted yield curve. So typically suggests a recession. Just hasn't happened. And again, it's because of massive federal budget deficit spending, millions of people coming in across the border, and the Fed monetizing the national debt. Check on oil down to $68.80 for West Texas Intermediate on the NYMEX. Holy cow, happy days at the gas pump. Now, the Biden-Harris team can't be happy about this. Progressives, anyone concerned about climate change, global warming, can't be happy with this. They want more expensive oil, not less expensive oil. And all the efforts President Biden made in the early part of 2021 to constrain the fossil fuel industry in America has backfired. The adjustments in terms of oil flows and natural gas flows around Russia and Ukraine has been sorted out. And so that war is no longer impacting energy markets. So really good news for consumers there. Good news for businesses. Good news for energy costs. Bad news for the green world. Natural gas down to $214. Gold at $2,535. Off their highs, but still obviously elevated and still obviously indicating concerns about inflation. And the dollar remains offered. The dollar index down at 101.63. We have been trading most of the year 104, 106. So it was the Fed commentary from a meeting ago that sent the dollar lower when the Fed began to talk about rate cuts are a possibility. Interest rates are a driving force for exchange rates. And so the dollar sold off from the 104.50 level down here to the 101 and change level. Dollar yen trading 143.15, way off the highs of 157. Euro against the dollar trading 110.40, well off the lows of 107 and change. Sterling trading 130.70. So the dollar is a little offered right now. Still a strong dollar compared to the past 10 years. Way off the lows for the dollar. But we're also way off the highs. We had a high of the euro about 2 years ago at about $0.85 to the euro. Anyway, that's a little quick check on the debate, markets, the economy. I'll be back with you soon. That's all I have for you right now. Oh, by the way, while you're still listening, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, click the bell for notifications, comment. I'd love to hear your comments on anything I'm saying, especially Democrats. I hope Democrats are listening. Let's have a conversation. Let's not be afraid of the opposite parties talking to each other. Try not to offend, show respect, share your opinions. I believe this, you believe that. Let's talk about it. That's all I got for you right now. Always try to buy American.